conversation. We call them community conversations. And today we have Hildy with us. But before we get into it, I just want to remind you that if you like one of these, if you've missed one of these, we are trying to put them all online on our YouTube channel, and you can go back to them and rewatch them. And if you thought you heard something but you weren't quite sure anymore, or something spoke to you, they're all there. Just like our sermons and our services, they're all available online for you. But anyways, today we have Hildy here. How's it going, Hildy?
Pretty good. I'm a little nervous.
You're a little nervous?
First time on, you know.
Well, it's much easier to talk to empty pews than it is to people.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Okay. Anyways, Hildy, I know you grew up in this church, and you're still here. And I'm always kind of fascinated in any church, why do people stay in their church? Because there's things that churches do that keep us, but there's also things that churches do that kind of push us away. And so I'm sure there's been good things and there's been struggles. So why are you still here? Why do you chose to remain here even when there was struggles? And yeah, you can kind of tell me a bit about that if you want.
Sure. I did write down my answers
All right.
so that I wouldn't lose track. So our family immigrated to Canada when I was just 9 years old.
Okay.
It was a long time ago. I'm 61. And we almost immediately joined this church. And as far as I can remember, I was always somehow involved.
Okay.
Of course, as a child, you're in Sunday school. I sang in the children's choir.
Right.
Then later participated in youth and the adult choir. I sang in groups and our ladies trio. I also tried my hand at Sunday school teaching and girls club leading, but that was really not my thing. I was not good at that. So that didn't last. I was committee chair of several groups over the years and helped organize special events. So those are the kind of things that I actually enjoyed.
Right.
So during all those years, there have been many peaks here at Springfield,
Right.
but also some dark valleys.
Right.
There has been some division due to language preferences, due to some conflicts and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But when one is heavily involved in the life of the church, it kind of becomes your second family.
Interesting.
And it's difficult to break away from it, even when you
Right.
feel like you want to
Okay.
during rough times.
Right.
And this church family stood by me during some very challenging times that we had in our family a number of years ago.
Yeah.
So that's something that I will always keep in my heart and
Right.
my mind, and I will never forget that.
Right.
And so much has changed in the last years, some positive and some negative.
Right.
And I feel that I'm still trying to figure it out, even though sometimes I felt that maybe I just don't belong anymore. And yet other times I feel that I have a strong desire to get more actively involved again.
Right.
So that's kind of where I sit right now. But I think there's a strong amount of loyalty which has kept me here too.
Right.
I am also aware that church is made up of people, and
Right.
people are imperfect, just like I am imperfect.
Right.
So I need to keep that in mind. And I'm also very thankful for you, Raphael, and our other pastors for your teaching and for your leadership here.
Well, thank you. I wrote that question specifically so I could get some positive feedback here for the congregation. No, I'm just kidding. I appreciate that. I kind of led you into talking a little bit of maybe some of the valleys in our congregation, because I want people to know that that is valid and common experience in churches, because as you said, we're people,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So there are going to be tough things. Just as a family, it doesn't always go well. You're not always having fun together.
No.
And you still choose to kind of remain loyal to each other and to love each other, right? And love
Right.
kind of crosses some of these dark valleys and kind of helps it through it. So I just kind of wanted you to share a little bit about that, and I really like that. I really appreciate it. And I know it always takes courage to say those things out loud, and I really appreciate that. And I want to move on now to something that's perhaps a little bit more part of who you really are, and that's music. You've kind of mentioned it already, how you've been involved in all these different music things. I know it's a crucial part of your life. I know whenever you and I chat about Springfield Heights, music comes up. But music has also changed in the last couple years, and some of that is just due to demographics. Some of that is perhaps due to some of our pastoral preferences of us pastors. So two things I would love for you to talk about. So the first thing is, how has music shaped your faith? And then the second thing that I would really love for you to address is how are you processing some of these changes away from, choir because we don't have enough people for choir anymore, and perhaps to a little bit more modern music. Has it hit you hard? Is it difficult? Has it been okay? Just, share what's on your heart.
Sure. Well, you are right about music being important in my life, but I am not formally educated in music.
Right.
However, my music abilities have come from participation and experience over many years, and definitely a gift from God.
Right.
And music is definitely good for my soul. I need it in my life.
Interesting.
So having been involved in various areas of the music ministry of our church, and the fact that I love singing,
Yeah.
has shaped my faith in a big way. And I do love our hymns.
Right.
They really speak to me.
Right.
Many of the hymns have beautiful poetry, which intrigues me.
Yeah.
And I know at one of your sermons you mentioned that you don't really pay much attention to the poetry of the hymns.
Right.
So I know we are all different.
Yeah.
When George and Esther Weeb were our music ministers over a 3-year period several years ago, they offered to us who sang in the choir free voice lessons, hymnology classes, and they broadened our choral and hymn repertoire. I learned so much in those years. And we learned about classical pieces such as Handel's Messiah and Haydn's Creation, the beautiful songs of Mendelssohn, just to name a few. And even though I always loved the music itself, I learned so much about the text,
Right.
the meaning behind the lyrics, the relation with biblical text, and sometimes about the authors and why they wrote those songs.
Right.
And often those lyrics have touched me in a very personal way. I really feel that when I'm singing sacred music, I am connecting with God.
Right.
I have also been involved in other choirs outside our church and have had the privilege of going on a European choir tour several years ago. It was one of the best faith experiences of my life.
Right.
What a blessing that was to me to meet fellow believers on the other side of the world, and we sang for them and we sang with them and experienced different styles of worshiping.
Right.
It was a great experience. I love all kinds of music, but I can't imagine life without sacred music.
Right.
Those of you who know me, I love Elvis. So I know I love all of his music, no matter what. And for your second question,
Yeah.
well, things have definitely changed so much in the last few years.
Yeah.
I can't deny that I have struggled a bit. There are so many great, newer sacred songs which I can relate to with a beautiful message.
Right.
The good thing about the newer worship music is that it is very easy to follow,
Right.
so it is definitely more inclusive. I think that's very important too.
Right.
I totally respect that changes are part of life, and in order to accommodate our younger generation, we need to focus on their interests as well.
Yeah.
So, however, I do hope that we at Springfield can hang on to our hymnals a little
Right.
longer
Right.
and continue to have a good balance of old and new music in our worship services.
And I think that's, at least that's my personal hope, but I think that's also what music committee is working on with Sandra and some of
Yes.
even our praise and worship teams is incorporating those songs from our hymnals, because it is still heart music,
Yes.
even if it maybe uses language that is older than our current language.
Right. Right.
And so we want to keep the heart music, but we also want to add new songs that also can become heart music and kind of blend these things together. And so that's our hope. Yeah. But I know it's been hard. And I think, maybe I'm speaking for you, but I think for many in our congregation, it's been hard that we don't have a choir anymore.
Well, it is,
Yeah.
and I miss it. I miss it a lot.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, things change and people go in other directions, and
Right.
it's just how it is. So,
Right. I mean, this is the perfect time, though, that if somebody's watching that really likes choirs, to know that we usually have a choir called the Kildonan Community Choir. That's a collaboration between a bunch of singers from North Kildonan. It's not attached to any single church.
yes,
We were planning a wonderful concert that got canceled because of COVID, but you should look it up on Facebook,
yes,
and there will be news about whenever we can sing in choirs again.
yes.
That
Or
we will
contact
have a-
Sandra or
yeah.
myself about it.
Exactly. So we want to make sure that we kind of keep that tradition up. All right, we're coming to the end. My third question, because I always have 3 questions. I'm sure people know that by now. I want to talk about God. And I know you've had some challenging and trying times in your life. There's been lots of sickness. There's been loss of loved ones. You know, the list could probably go on for a bit.
Yeah.
How has your relationship with God changed over that time? So who's God for you today versus perhaps who God was for you before all of that happened? And why do you still hold on to God, you know?
Those are very good questions. Yes, we've had health challenges and a death in our immediate family. It was more than 7 years of dealing with all of that. First, I had cancer, which included surgery, lots of harsh chemotherapy, from which I eventually recovered quite well. Then my husband, my first husband, John, developed cancer, which was already in stage 4. He endured a lot of pain, and after a difficult struggle for 15 months, he passed at the age of 50. Then 1 year later, my cancer returned, but in a different area, which required several surgeries, more chemo treatments, and that recovery was not easy. So during that time, it was the first time when I actually questioned God. Why?
Interesting. Yeah.
Why is this happening to me again? Why do my daughters, my 2 daughters, need to deal with a sick parent again?
Right.
I was so confused and I couldn't understand why he let this happen to me for the 3rd time now, right? I was very concerned about my daughters and what they had already endured. I was convinced I was going to die this time. And I had a very difficult time praying. I just didn't know how to pray anymore. I didn't know what to say to God.
Right.
So then a friend of mine told me that it was okay for me not to be able to pray, and that others were praying for me during that time.
Right.
And that really helped me to understand how important intercessory prayer is. Right. Others were praying for me and my girls while I was not able to pray because I was struggling.
Right.
So that was very, very important to me. So jumping ahead several years, I am now remarried to a wonderful man, Ed, who is managing the sound here today. We have a beautiful blended family along with 3 grandchildren. God has blessed me over and over again, even though I couldn't always see it right away, but in hindsight, I often recognize it now.
Right.
So why do I still hold on to God? Because he has and continues to guide my life. And knowing of his grace and his forgiveness through Jesus and his assurance, I continue to experience hope and peace in my life. And that's how I would answer that.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
What wise words from your friend.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for being here, Hildy. I know these were deep questions and a level of vulnerability in front of people that we don't even know who's watching, and I really appreciate that. So I want to pray for you, and then we'll have another song coming up. So let's pray. God, I thank you for Hildy, and I thank you that you've been with her, and you've been with her in those dark times, and you've carried her through, even when she didn't know what to say and what to pray. Others were praying, but you yourself are praying alongside us, even when we don't have the words. Your Spirit speaks in us, and I thank you that you've carried her, that you've restored her health in a measure, that you've given her a new blended family, Lord. I thank you for all the work she's done in this congregation, and I thank you that she's blessed us through her gift of music. And Lord, I pray that you would continue to bless Hildy, that you would continue to help her be a worker in your field, that you would continue to use her gifts in our congregation, but also beyond this congregation, Lord. That you would give her the strength to engage in new and meaningful ways, that you would give her the courage to blow past criticism and perhaps fear of what people are saying, to just be who you've called her to be. I pray for her family, for her children, for her husband, for her grandchildren. I pray that you would be with them as well, that you would protect them during this time of COVID, as some of them, I believe, are also healthcare workers. And I just pray that this testimony that we heard here could also encourage us to grow deeper in our faith with you. Pray all of this in your name. Amen.